Thank you for being here with us today for a media availability with NDP Leader Jagmeet Singh. Merci d'être ici avec nous pour une conférence de presse avec le chef du NPD Jagmeet Singh. On va prendre des questions à la fin. We will take questions at the end. And I will turn it over to you, Jagmeet.
Thanks so much. Today, I'm in the community of Hay River. Behind me is an indigenous community, First Nation, N.W.T. And where I'm standing right now, we should be underwater. This community has experienced such extreme weather. Last year, record flooding, which devastated the community, meant major damage to infrastructure and homes. This year, forest fires were so bad that the N.W.T. community experienced significant loss to buildings and structures and homes. And now the water is at a record low level. This is serious. This is exactly what happens when extreme weather becomes a norm. Communities are hard hit, people are hard hit, people are losing their homes, and communities are being devastated. Sadly, this is happening across the country. And while people are reeling with the impacts, the present day impacts of extreme weather, we have a federal government and a prime minister who is not responding with the urgency necessary to deal with the challenges that communities are facing. Justin Trudeau has not responded with the type of urgency necessary to keep these communities safe. And the Conservatives can't even come to a consensus of whether or not they really believe the climate crisis is actually happening. Neither of those responses are sufficient. What we need to do is make investments so that communities can be more resilient. We can't hope that things return to normal. The reality is, this is the new normal. Extreme weather is the normal, and communities need to be better prepared to deal with this new normal. What that means is investing in communities so they have better infrastructure to be better equipped to deal with floods. Better investments to ensure that communities are equipped to respond to fires, and the communities are insulated or protected so they don't have to deal with the massive damages after the fact. And instead, we put in place precautions and prevention to prevent the worst from happening. We have already seen communities rapidly scrambling to deal with the aftermath of these crises. And instead, what we're calling for is the federal government needs to invest significantly to ensure that these communities have the adaptation and mitigation resources necessary so their communities are resilient. That's what we're calling for. We also need to fight the climate crisis with everything we have. We need to protect people, we need to protect their homes, and we need to protect our planet. That's what we're calling for. Donc, c'est clair ici que la crise climatique frappe fort. Je suis dans une communauté qui a vécu des inondations, des feux de forêt et des impacts sévères. Et ils ont perdu des maisons, du logement. Et c'est malheureusement la réalité à travers le pays. Parce que la réalité de la crise climatique, c'est qu'on a la température extrême partout. Au lieu d'agir, on a un gouvernement fédéral et un premier ministre, Justin Trudeau, qui ne prend pas au sérieux cette crise. Il n'agit pas avec l'urgence nécessaire pour répondre aux besoins des communautés. Et on a une partie conservateur et un chef conservateur qui ne peut pas vraiment dire s'ils sont d'accord que tout ça, c'est causé par les crises climatiques. Donc, on demande que le gouvernement fédéral investisse davantage, aider les communautés d'avoir les moyens de répondre à cette nouvelle réalité. Des investissements pour l'infrastructure qui est prêt pour la température extrême. On doit défendre notre planète, on doit réduire nos émissions, on doit faire face à la crise climatique et on doit aider les communautés d'être prêts pour répondre ces nouvelles réalités. Merci et je suis prêt pour vos questions. Thank you. I'm ready for any questions you might have.
We'll take questions on Zoom. I would ask you to use the raised hand function if you have a question. Everyone will have one question and one follow-up question. Je vous demande d'utiliser la fonction lever la main si vous avez une question. On va prendre une question et une question suivie. So our first question comes from the CBC's David Thurton. Go ahead, David.
Hi, Mr. Singh. Good afternoon.
There.
I'd like to ask you a question about the cabinet shuffle, which is imminent. I'm wondering if you could tell us what you're hoping to see come out of the shuffle.
Well, what I've said before regarding the shuffle to me is not going to undo the fact that this government has had 7 years to respond to serious crises like the climate crisis. And their track record speaks for itself. This is a government that has had 7 years to invest in communities to help them with better mitigation, better adaptation, better resilience to deal with the realities of the climate crisis and extreme weather. The government has not done that. The Liberals have not responded with the urgency necessary. We're dealing with a housing crisis. We're dealing with a cost of living crisis, and this government hasn't done enough. And everything that they have done when it comes to the cost of living has been what we have forced them to do, to bring in a doubling of the GST rebate, dental care for children and seniors and kids 18 and under by the end of this year. We have forced them to deliver the things that have made life a little better for people, but there's still so much more that needs to be done to give people a real break from the cost of living pressures. We need to take on the high cost of grocery prices and take on the corporate greed, which is driving up the cost of living in a significant way. So whether the government shuffles or not, it will not change the fact that they have 7 years to respond to these challenges. And what I hope to see is that Justin Trudeau starts taking these challenges seriously and starts responding with the urgency required.
Okay, I'll just follow up there and ask, this shuffle is supposed to be out about renewal and resetting priorities for the Liberals. Do you have any thoughts about possibly renewing or resetting or changing the confidence and supply agreement that you have with the Liberals?
Well, I hope this government starts to take things seriously. We need to respond to the climate crisis in a very serious and urgent way. We need to build more homes rapidly so people can find a place to call home that's affordable. We need to see real investments to make life more affordable for people who are saying, we are struggling with the cost of living. And we need to see some real action from this government. So we'll continue to use the power that we have, but ultimately, the government has to start taking these things seriously so that people can get a break.
Our next question comes from the Canadian Press. Mickey, go ahead.
Thank you. I guess my question is kind of on the same topic. How do you expect that this cabinet shuffle will affect the working relationship that your two parties have?
I don't think there'll be any significant change on our relationship. We've been using the power that we have to force this government to act, and we've been able to deliver some concrete things, and we're going to continue to do that. We've delivered on dental care for kids under 12. That went out the door. Over 300,000 families were able to successfully get that support so their kids can get their teeth looked after. And now we're going to push to make sure that it expands to seniors and kids 18 and under. That's something we're going to continue to force this government to deliver on, something that we put in the agreement. We're going to force it to deliver on that. There are additional steps that we need to take. We force this government to deliver on things like doubling the GST rebate. That's going to put money in people's pockets. It's already done that. That's something we're going to continue to push for to see as a real form of relief in people's pockets. And we're going to use the power that we have in this agreement to continue to fight for those things. We need to see some real urgent action on mitigation and adaptation, making sure that fund is available for municipalities so they can prepare for the realities of the climate crisis. So we're going to use our power to do that as well.
Thank you. And then I guess, will this change how maybe business is done between the two parties? For example, maybe new cabinet members have to be briefed on past meetings that your parties have had together. Does this change, I guess, how business is done?
I don't see there being a significant change in the way we continue to push this government to deliver. There may be new ministers that will have to be briefed up. Our team works with ministers on the other side, and so that's going to happen with whoever the new ministers are. But we're going to continue to do what we've done. Throughout this minority government, New Democrats have used our power to get people real concrete results. We've forced this government to deliver on dental care, like I said, something that the Liberals would never have done, but for the fact we forced them to. And the Conservatives, while having significantly more members of parliament than New Democrats, can't really point to any concrete things that they've done to make people's lives better in this past minority government. We can't. Because for us, the job of being in Parliament is to make life better for people, to fight to get things to happen that will relieve some of the pressure on the shoulders of working families. And we're going to do that with dental care, with the doubling of the GST rebate, with additional steps to make life more affordable when it comes to taking on the grocery companies that are making record profits while you pay the highest prices in groceries that you paid. We're going to continue to fight to make sure there's more fairness there. So we're going to continue to do our work. Whatever happens with the cabinet shuffle won't change our commitment to Canadians to fight for them, to continue to deliver results.
A reminder to those joining us on Zoom, please use the raised hand function if you would like to ask a question. Go ahead, David.
Hi, thanks for taking another question. Mrs. Singh, I just want to come back to the confidence and supply agreement. Again, we're seeing a reset on the Liberal side of things when it comes to this cabinet shuffle. Have you been doing any thinking about whether it's time to amend that agreement that you have with the Liberals to account for the changes that we've seen in the economy, changes that we've seen in other places, and certainly changes that we're going to see in the ministers' portfolios?
What we negotiated gave us the flexibility to fight for things that are outside the agreement. And we acknowledged that when we fought for the doubling of the GST rebate. That was something that we imagined when we negotiated the agreement. And it was something that Canadians needed. They needed a relief. They needed some money back in their pockets, and we were able to do that. Similarly, we're going to continue to fight for things that are outside the agreement. And we're going to use the power that we have with the things that we negotiated to force this government to deliver. They would not have delivered dental care but for the fact that we've got it in writing. We're going to continue to fight to make sure that happens. So there's 27 things that we fought for that we are going to force this government to deliver on. We've delivered already on a number of those. Legislation to make the childcare funding permanent. That's something that we included in the agreement. We fought for and we delivered on that to keep the cost of childcare down, to make sure it's more affordable for families, to save them money, and to ensure that they can get their kids looked after that way. So there's a number of things that we still have to deliver on that we're going to continue to fight for. And we're going to use our power to fight for things outside of the agreement like we've done, like we're raising today for municipalities that are impacted by the climate crisis. They need a real investment in an adaptation and mitigation fund, a disaster relief fund that allows them to make proactive investments to protect their communities. We're going to fight for that as well.
Jagmeet, I will pass things back to you for closing remarks.
Thanks so much. I want to thank you for attending. Again, I just want to remind folks where I'm standing right now in this river in the community of Hay River and N.W.T. This should be underwater. Just to give you a context of how severe the weather has been and how severe the impacts of extreme weather has been in this community. They've seen flooding, forest fires, and now extremely low water. All of these extreme weather patterns have had very serious impacts on the community, destroying vital infrastructure and homes and threatening their way of life. Many of the products and goods that need to be transported by barge. And with the water levels this low, that is seriously impeding that from happening. This is now a new reality, and we need to make sure we make investments to support communities so they can better adapt to that. Thank you for attending, and thank you to the mayor of the city, to the MLAs and ministers that I was able to speak with, to the chief and the Indigenous communities. Thank you for spending your time with me.